I would now like to welcome on stage Mr. Amr Baabood, CEO of Arabian Research Bureau and the OITE Group, to deliver a welcome address and moderate the panel discussion.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Hamdan, for that speech about AI and the fourth industrial revolution and how that's going to help many of our industries in and beyond. Hamdan was representing MTCIT, of course, speaking about how the strategy can help to support, including the startup. Your Excellency, Dr. Ali Shidani, Undersecretary of Communications and Information Technology at MTCIT. Your Excellency, Dr. Khalid Al Huraibi, Undersecretary of Higher Education. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, thank you for being here today for the second event on big data. An important topic, otherwise we wouldn't have done it for 2 years in a row. It is an emerging technology. New methods and ways of using this tool keep developing all the time. And it's great to have people here from different sectors who can use case studies, inspire others, and teach all of us how we can use the enormous amounts of data which we have, how to store them, how to analyze them, and of course the achievement as we celebrate success in the Big Data Awards with all the trophies waiting here for many of the great organizations have held in big data. I would like to thank the sponsor for being here today and for sponsoring this event. We have Oman Data sponsor for 2 years in a row, actually. So thank you to Oman Data Park. And then we have all the way from Poland in the Omani market, and we're very proud to have this Polish with us here today. Also, I want to thank Dr. Salem and the OITS Oman, who is a strong partner for being here today, Dr. Salem. So this big data and analytics meet is part of the COMEX series. As my colleague Wiam had mentioned, COMEX has had some good success this year, and the response for next year so far is overwhelming. As you might know, it's a 32-year journey for the last 30, bringing together government, academia, and businesses. So I'm very happy that this event is continuing, and we're launching the series focusing on ICT and technology, and bringing in all the key sectors to educate, to innovate, and to inspire. As you will know, we are launching for COMEX. We're launching COMEX in Bahrain for the first time. Bahrain has recently opened their beautiful center just last month, and we're very keen to work with all of you here, with our Bahraini partners and also our Saudi partners on this event. So we're very excited to take you all to Bahrain, and I look forward to seeing you all there next year, September. So back to the topic of big data. I want to speak to you a little bit about, it might surprise you, Omani halwa. As you can see here on the screen. Oman's favorite dessert. And what's Oman's favorite flavor of halwa? Can anyone guess? Saffron, yes. And how do we know that? Data. Sales show that the most bought type of halwa is saffron. It's the number one by far. But when they started selling the in the shops, saffron fell to maybe 4th or 5th position. Why did that happen? What's the reason for this? The reason is, when you have a bigger version of halwa, usually the whole family has to agree, or the whole group has to agree. And saffron is everyone's second favorite flavor. You can buy smaller quantities for an individual. You're free to choose what you want, your first favorite flavor, which is not saffron. You can get your first choice. Something you couldn't see of point here is that more data doesn't just let you see more, it lets you see different. It lets you see, especially when you have different data sets and you're using analytics to. In this case, it allows us to see what Oman's favorite halwa is. But this can be used in different sectors, different industries. I might disappoint you. The story I told you wasn't true. I don't have any data about halwa sales in Oman. This story is based on a study in the US about pies, but I adapted it to make it more relevant to Oman. So sorry about this. You can go back to the data page now. So data has become more liquid, more fluid, more easily. It's easily stored, it's easily shared. It's easily analyzed and filtered. We can spot trends, highlight inefficiencies, and find solutions and correct them. The insights enable us to do the most important thing, which is to make well-informed and immediate decisions at the highest levels. Big data and algorithms will challenge the workforce, which is a professional, knowledge-based workforce, the same way that automation completely changed the blue-collar workforce in the past. And for this reason, I really want to commend His Excellency Dr. Ali and the Ministry for all the training that is going on to train up to 10,000 Omanis in the first phase in IT. So please, everyone, give him a big round. This will help to reduce the challenges and also help us to achieve some of the opportunities which are available to us. This tool, big data, is fast developing, like I've mentioned. It's disruptive, and it's a reason that we're still talking about it today, and we will keep talking about it for years to come. We're only just scratching the surface, so it's up to us to remain up to date to really get the. So this event for the next 2 days on different areas within the big data realm, including advanced data structures and platforms, advanced AI, data policy, strategy, building an intelligent business, and monetization. I'll begin with before we move on to the awards. I'd like to call Engineer Maqboul Al-Wahaiby, CEO of Oman Data Park. Of course, as Engineer Maqboul, leader in data centers in the country are required. Khalid is a founder and managing director of Impact Integrated. He is an startup advisor. Next is Ingrid Andersson. Senior Associate and Vice President of IKED and Global Forum. She is a global expert in data science and data tech. Saud Al Zakwani, Head of Data Science at PDO, with the biggest use of tech use in an oil industry in the country. And finally, Mohamed El-Shanawany, Regional Sales Leader, Hybrid Cloud, Data and AI, and Automation at IBM. Global Solutions and Technology Provider. Thank you everyone for being here on this panel. We will now begin with a discussion. So I'll be starting with Engineer Maqboul. Engineer, please can you explore how cloud how cloud can leverage data analytics.
Okay, thank you, Amr. Thank you. Thanks for everyone to be here. It's a pleasure to talk to you. And we are no experts. We are just trying to explore and basically share as much knowledge as possible from our side. مثل ما يقولوا لا يفتى وما لكم في المدينة. دكتور علي, Dr. Salim, and البقية, you might be more knowledgeable in this field than we are. So I'm not gonna basically act as an expert in the AI and big data, but I'll basically share some of the challenges and basically some of the inputs from the market side. Cloud and AI are very much connected. Cloud is actually, to me, is the first journey towards AI. It's the first journey towards big data. Just to bring to basically have a context on the area of big data and analysis and AI. There's a lot of acronyms, and it's confusing us all, and we don't know where to fit what. So if you can imagine, there is 4 stages conceptually. And it begins with the data sources. From the data sources, you need to build what we call data lakes. And to connect data sources to data lakes, you need what we call data pipes and data bridge. And then you take the data lakes into data analysis, where you can build patterns. And from there, you can generate what we call AI and machine learning. This is like in a simplistic form. So there's a lot of details there. We don't want to bore you to death with the details, but this is like the 4 stages. So before all this, cloud is actually where the journey all starts, because of 2 reasons. The first is the centralization of data, which makes it possible to connect the data together. And the second is the economy of scale that cloud services actually provide. And what we mean by economy of scale is the financial impacts that that it has from a TCO perspective over a corporate itself. So there's a lot of saving, if you like, 45% saving when you move to cloud. So without cloud, it's going to be really hard for us to reach the stage of AI on its final form, if you like. You will have a decentralized, and things can get a little bit messy and complicated. And that's why, we are talking today about connected clouds rather than cloud itself. So we have like aisles of cloud internationally, and we are trying to connect these clouds together. And that's what Google, what Amazon, what other multinational companies are trying to do, and IBM. They are all trying to connect those clouds together in order to provide us with the best of breed AI at its final form, if you like.
Thank you so much for that concise answer, Engineer Maqboul, on how cloud can leverage data analytics. The next question is for Khalid Al Huraibi. Khalid, welcome. Please, can you tell us what is a role that disruptive innovation plays in adopting best practice in advanced big data infrastructure and platforms?
Thank you very much, Amr, and I'm very happy to be here. And I'm really glad that we have at least one time a year where we learn from each other in a very important field that I think it will be the economy of not only the future, it's the economy of now, to be honest. And the role that I think disruptive innovation can play in helping our market pivot towards really benefiting from big data is, what I see, that there are 2 sides. There is a side in the Omani market where we are doing very well, which is positive, and there's a side that needs improvement. The side that I think is positive is all the wonderful work that has been going on, that was done by the Information Technology Authority and later by MTCIT. I am very impressed by the policy side, how much it's developed, and it's conducive for the other players to come and plug and play, and the big companies, the SMEs, the startups, the global players as well. One side that I see where we need improvement is the side of disruptive innovation. To reach disruptive innovation, what we really need is a moonshot. one big project that encourages all the players to invest in people, to invest in systems, to invest in what is it that really will help the market flourish. I remember our experience in this, that in 2019 and 2020, we were approached by authorities in Qatar through IKED to provide them with hundreds of people, of system analysts, data architects, data analysts, data visualizers, and all sorts of things that would have helped the market flourish. But that was not possible because the gap is that when they needed startups with 10 years, with 5 years, with 7 years experience, our experience here was mostly 2 years to 3 years. So if we're going to adopt a disruptive innovation model, what we really need is one moonshot, one big project that will have that trickle-down effect where everyone will benefit. So far, it's the big data market in Oman is still a red ocean. Very small players going after very small contract without a well-articulated end result until now. So I think this is what we really need to benefit from disruptive innovation. What is in the 60s, President Kennedy said that they will put a man in the moon in 10 years. And no one believed him. And this is why they call it a moonshot. So I think someone here in the Sultanate needs to articulate in 10 years, how are we going to put not a man in the moon, but how are we going to articulate what kind of impact do we want from big data? Okay, we will bring the big data companies, we will have the system analysts, but to do what? Is it to create jobs of the future? Is it to create startups? So once we identify that, we need to articulate exactly where are we going to be after 10 years. Once we know where we're going to be after 10 years, then I think the story will become much easier for everyone to know what is my role. If I am a startup, I will look for this. If I'm a big player, if I'm the government. But right now, it's a little bit fragmented, and we need a moonshot.
Thank you so much for that, Khalid. Inshallah, we can find our moonshot. And if anyone has any moonshots, please let Khalid know. I think for the next, we have 2 days to find the moonshot. Is the Omani satellite, which is going up soon, is that something like a moonshot?
Yes, that's a great example. And there are 2 examples that I can think of. What you need in a moonshot, something that will make the investors ready to invest in the market, to invest in people, and to invest in systems, to invest in hardware, and to come here. Right now, the investors are being very traditional in looking at the Omani market. Dr. Salem, His Excellency Dr. Ali, they have been working very hard for the past few years to attract the investors who will help us to flourish. Why are they not coming, and why they will not come? Because something that we in the entrepreneurship and the startup world, we call the TAM, Total Addressable Market. What is the total addressable market that they will come to invest in? So without the TAM, investors will not come. So in examples such as the satellite, once the investors know that this is $100 billion market, and in Oman they will be able to invest and the return will be maybe $10 billion market, that's when they will come. Another example is the energy industry. It was just announced today, for example, that we have $140 billion investment between now and 2050. If we can agree with the energy industry that out of this $140 billion market for the next 2050 from now is it was not very good in math in school.
28?
So,
no, 28.
So this $140 billion, what we need to do is explain to the investors that out of this $140 billion that the energy industry will spend in the hydrogen, and it's already official, and it's there in the blueprints, this is how much will be dedicated to the data side. This is how much is going to be dedicated to the whole information and communication technology. And only then will they be encouraged to come here. They will invest in what the PDO has pioneered as in-country value. They will invest in assets. They will invest in people. They will invest in developing goods and developing services, research, development, and innovation. We will judge them in these 5 to 6 things. So can we link the satellite industry, and can we link the hydrogen, the green hydrogen industry, and make it convincing and appealing to the investors? I think these are 2 examples that can be a moonshot.
Thank you, Khalid. And I think you touched upon research, which Engineer Maqboul was discussing earlier this morning, and the importance of research and how that needs to be, instead of trying to use surplus money on it, it should be one of the core strategies, I think, going forward. So thank you, Khalid. Moving on to Ingrid. Ingrid, looking into the future, what would you consider the big global trends in big data analytics, which we should consider the most important for the Gulf region?
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me to be part of this interesting event on big data analytics. It's an honor to be here, and also with esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen. So, yeah, looking into the future, looking into Oman and what can be the next trends, what should be considered really in order to meet the needs that we see in disruptive technology and artificial intelligence, machine learning, and others. Capacity building is definitely one, and I know that the ministry is doing a lot of work in this area, and we have to enhance everybody's skills in order to meet their needs and to meet the investors that Khalid mentioned. Because if we don't have the skills, we will not be able to take these opportunities forward, which are immense opportunities and which we definitely should work on. But we should also work on the education sector in total, because how can we know what kind of jobs are out there? We will not know. The future is uncertain because the knowledge development and the technology is moving faster than the education sector. So what we have to be working with is working with young kids, allow for experimentation, allow for openness, work a lot in teams, and have flexibility in different learning environments. We cannot be in a classroom situation day by day. We have to move outside of the classroom and also let the youth and the young to flourish and to be part of the journey at an early on stage. I think this is a very, very important step. And then I would like to mention also in terms of to be the readiness for what is about to come. I echo here the engineer Maqboul in terms of the infrastructure. We need to have a robust infrastructure, otherwise nobody will come and invest. So the infrastructure and the satellites, the clouds, working out what kind of IoT platforms do we need for the future. We have already embedded 5G in Oman, and I'm very happy to see that development because this will drive a lot of effort. So much has been done, but we need to continuously work on the infrastructure issues and see that we have robust networks that everybody can play into, and the lakes that Engineer Maqboul mentioned. So I just would like to say that these 3 items, the capacity building, the really looking at education at young age, and also the infrastructure would be key.
Thank you so much, Ingrid. The next question is for Mr. Saud Al Zakwani, and it's about data infrastructure. What are the big themes that you see across the space these days in data infrastructure?
Thank you very much, and thanks for the opportunity. It's a pleasure and an honor to share the podium with the CEO status, very well selected individuals from across the organizations. In the past and up to now, the changes that we have seen on our data infrastructure has been from a vision to what we are actually experiencing today in a very short period of time. Indicates on how fast we are actually moving in the space. I remember in 2012, I was presenting big data with a passion that we need to capitalize on this. On definition, 3 Vs, we were challenged on complexity of volume, velocity, and unstructured variety of data. Most of our organization, some of the organization could tap onto it, but the infrastructure has not evolved yet to be able to address it. Today, looking back, any investment you put in on the data infrastructure already addresses the big data challenges. So that's one of the areas that we need to actually look back and say, okay, we've covered this, and let's look at what others we can address. Another area which I think is a very strategic pivot on our data infrastructure is the strategy of being able to decouple modular elements in the architecture itself. This allowed us, rather than looking at data infrastructure as a management system, we're currently looking at it as an ETL or ELT transformation. So your extractions, its own capability, its own complexities are being challenged with its own tools, your transformation, your loading, and each and every area. You might be very good at one area, not very good at the other, but then you're actually addressing your capabilities in your organization. I think this is the second. From a background of data science, I would also say what we are experiencing now and probably in the future on a platform on machine learning. Data infrastructures are evolving to be able to accommodate machine learning operations. ML ops is critical for any organization who wants to invest in AI. AI is not plug and play. AI needs constant retraining. Everything changes every single day, every single minute, every single hour. And if you are going to invest on an army to be able to adapt AI into the changes, then you are actually undermining your investment and undermining the return on investment that you're actually expecting from AI. ML Ops is a platform that manages to address the whole pipeline of machine learning models, where you can actually automatically understand data drifts, understand if things are changing, have strategic deployments of your models, understanding the past model, the accuracy, what you are actually deteriorating, what is actually needed to be trained. And it allows us to be able to scale AI and industrialize it. So these are the three, I would think, of game changers that we have experienced, and she covered the future already.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Saud, for that. Moving on to our final panelist, Mohamed El-Shanawany. My question for you is to do with hybrid cloud, automation, data, and AI. What is the current regional demand and opportunities? And how does this reflect within Oman?
Assalamu alaikum. So I'll group the answer to 3 parts: the hybrid cloud part, the AI part, and then the automation part. I think hybrid cloud is becoming the dominant deployment for cloud in the region. According to lots of studies, 77% of the customers are adopting today hybrid cloud strategy. Surprisingly, most of our customers, they think that public cloud is the most adopted. Actually, 53% only is adopted by customers when it comes to public cloud. 49% in SaaS. And why hybrid cloud is important? Because it enables you to go to multi-cloud. It's not hybrid cloud to one cloud, but more hybrid multi-cloud strategy. When we go to our customers and survey them, and we tell them how many cloud relationships you have, they usually tell us we usually have 2. When we audit them and inspect them, we find out that they have at least 8 relationships. 8 relationships in different deployment, whether IaaS, whether SaaS, whether hybrid, whether public, they have more than 8 relationships. It is funny that 10 years ago, when Microsoft brought Microsoft 365, we're asking the customers, do you have a cloud strategy? They say no. You ask them, are you using Microsoft 365? Yes. Then you are a cloud customer. But they don't link it. Okay? So this is the reality of what's happening. If we look into customers and ask them, how many SaaS applications you have, they will tell you we have approximately 100 SaaS applications. When we audit them, we find that they have more than 364 SaaS applications. So cloud is a reality, cloud is there. Hybrid multi-cloud would allow you to keep the control on-prem and then have the data on the cloud. When it comes to the local market and the hybrid multi-cloud strategy, it is very common in this market that customer would say, I would like to keep my data on-prem, but I want to have the compute happening on the cloud. Using cloud satellite and other technology, we can provide them the ability to be able to keep the data on-prem and run computing on the cloud, thus accelerating time to results and completing the business on time. So hybrid cloud is a reality. It's the most dominant and it's the most accepted and requested by customers. When it comes to AI, it was mentioned in the first presentation about the fourth revolution, fourth industrial revolution. Fourth industrial revolution, either you are part of it or either you accept to be left behind. It's happening. According to PwC, the AI-influenced market in the 4 GCC countries is totaling $45.9 billion by 2030. The total contribution of the AI, the Middle East and AI globally is only 2% by 2030. It's a market of $320 billion. AI-influenced market. So either you adopt AI today or you accept to be left behind. So very important to consider that part. I think I was impressed before coming. I looked at the Omanuna website and I looked at how the Omani government is portraying itself. I think they rank as 48th internationally and 6th in the Middle East. I think this is good. Certainly, it's a growth opportunity and you can grow. But again, the Omanuna initiative is clearly putting you on the right track. On the third part, which is automation, I think we like to say, to call it today, AI-powered automation. And automation comes in 3 parts. It comes business automation, IT automation, and also integration. There is no automation without integration. Omani market is doing very well when it comes to integration. But I think business automation and IT automation is a growth opportunity for the country. And I think the pandemic showed us very well that how you can achieve in a short amount of time. Some of our customers accelerated their digital transformation agenda by almost 10 years, only in the pandemic period. And I think this is a great achievement. So it's a growth opportunity where the country, the businesses, the government can do even better when it comes to that part. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you so much, Mohammed, and it's good to hear that you think that we are in a good position with lots of potential for growth. Thank you, Mohammed. Moving back to engineer Maqboul Al-Wahaiby, the common phrase that data is worth more than oil or data equals oil. Can you explore that? Pass the mic. Unless you're Mr. Saud Al Zakwani, who is both in data and oil.
Maybe you can بعدين extend the discussion. ما عندي مشكلة. بالعكس, into oil and gas. And I think the oil and gas, by the way, are very much ahead of the game صراحة. يعني I was impressed. Schlumberger had a great event like a month ago in Luzerne in Switzerland, and it was very impressive on how they are actually gearing up on automating the oil and gas industry, starting from exploration into seismic processing, into also the well drilling. And just imagine a well can be drilled in another country just automatically without unmanned, if you like. And that is actually where they are moving towards to. And by the way, today we are working very closely with Schlumberger team on seeing how ways and means of enriching the oil and gas industry in Oman. We co-locate in Oman Dara Park. We co-located Schlumberger systems, AI systems, and I think they are doing a great job in penetrating the oil and gas industry. Now, going back to your question regarding the What was the question?
Does data equal oil?
Yeah, that's where you dragged me into the oil thing. So I forgot the data and I focused on oil. Basically, when we say data is oil, we mean a lot of things behind it. So it's basically the ways and means of how data can actually improves productivity, improves resilience, improves also the the TCO aspect, the total cost of ownership, on reducing your total cost, by factor of 45, and sometimes it goes to 50% actually. And so the more data you have, the better chance you can actually make use of it. So data in itself does not mean anything. The data, when data at rest, it has no impact. Actually, you need to take that data into another space of, let's say, as I explained earlier, through the 4 steps, the four layers, into building patterns, into machine learnings, into, again, the optimum goal is artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence is the automation of the pattern development that we do. So, and that is where AI becomes very much interesting. And that is where actually you can improve your GDP nationwide. Today, if you don't work towards AI, you're not going to improve your GDP nationally. Not today. Maybe this is something that you can do a decade ago, but not now. Now, the game changer is the artificial intelligence. If you have $1 today, please invest it in AI. I tell you, you're going to make a lot of money in 10 years' time, maybe 15, not 10. But then the contribution and the economical sense of it is through artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence can only happen if you have big data. And there are a lot of examples that's happening. Oil and gas is one of the examples, and I think PDO with its partners and Schlumberger and others are doing a great job in that area. There are also, the way that artificial intelligence can actually uplift our productivity as human beings. At the end of the day, what is economics? Economics is all about the productivity of a human being per hour basis. So if I have a human being works for 9 to 5 continuously, that is the contribution to the economy, that's the contribution to the GDP. Now, unfortunately, we are human beings. We cannot actually have that sustainable model of working 9 to 5 on a full capacity or full productivity, and that's why we are utilizing artificial intelligence and robotics for that. So with robotics today, we can extend the working hours, not from 9 to 5, we can have it 24/7. And by having that 24/7, that uplifts the man-hour productivity, which will contribute to the economy. And that's why the economy can actually can uplift itself. So as I said, the game changer is artificial intelligence, robotics, through machine learning. You can uplift your economics, and that's where we say data is considered to be the next oil.
Saud, is there anything you wanted to say on this?
Yes, I think it's a good point. I have had data is equal to oil, data is the new currency. In relation to data and oil, I think it's the processing. So if you are in the oil and gas field, you know that you don't just dig for oil, you drill for oil, and the minute you get your barrels, the processing that it actually requires until it reaches your car or any other use of oil itself is quite intensive. Data is exactly the same. So the processing until you actually have your insight is similar and relevant to data is equal to oil. But what I would also think it comes from value. With oil, we've been enjoying quite a good profit margin, and selling oil with the expense of drilling it when you have your really good buffer. Efficiency is very, what I would say, it comes into, we can do this because we can get way more. We don't need to do this because it's no value. Let's just produce oil. But with the current pandemic, with the oil prices, efficiency has just been on every scale. The buffer we used to enjoy and oil companies used to enjoy is very unpredictable now. And the way forward is to be able to understand on how we can add efficiency regardless of what we can produce now or in the future. Value from oil, everyone knows it. Value from data is disruptive. If you can actually manage to gather, find patterns, then you not only disrupt departments or organizations, you disrupt industries. We've seen the social media, Facebook, we've seen Uber, we've seen a couple of injection into the market where they don't even own any asset, they just own the data, and their growth is exponential. So I think that is where the data value comes in, relevant to oil.
Thank you, Saud. Actually, last night, when I was trying to prepare for my speech, I was reading a little bit about dark data, which I hadn't heard about before, and also how there is a data which has been processed and analyzed, data which hasn't been analyzed, and also data which your organization doesn't have but can have access to. So it's a whole universe, which was really interesting, and it made me start thinking of oil and the links with oil. So thank you for answering that question, and Engineer Maqboul about explaining how it's AI, robotics, and ML, and the big data which is required to kind of the fuel for these technologies. Because in the past, it's been kind of the development of ICT has been focusing on the hardware, whereas the big data is kind of the soft stuff which goes into us to help us to improve efficiencies. So now my next question is for Khalid. You were recently at the Web Summit in Portugal. So I hope
you're following me, Amr.
Yes. Following on Instagram, on LinkedIn. What were some of the relevant emerging trends in the startup world from what you saw in Portugal and elsewhere?
Thanks a lot. It's a very interesting question to look at emerging trends. What's really going on in the world, in the space that we're talking about today? From attending some global events, just to see what the big companies are doing, what the startups are doing, there are two things that I've noticed, and there was one thing that I just did not see. The two things that I have noticed that are happening globally and the same in Oman is the investment in the AI and big data startups. It is still there, and it's much stronger in places like Europe, in the East, and in Africa, in particular in the emerging market. There's still a very healthy early stage investment to fill this gap that is, with the world moving more towards a data-driven economy. In Oman, I got to witness what they call a demo day. So Omani startups, 11 Omani startups with MTCIT, Oman Technology Fund, SME Authority, and IDCA. They went to Portugal and they were presenting. And I've noticed one very interesting thing, that the pitch of the Omani companies was even more mature than the pitch than companies from other side of the world. And I think what was the missing part was how mature the government ecosystem support has come in the past few years. Whereas in the other parts of the world, it was still very much investment-only driven development. So the first trend I noticed, that early stage investment is happening worldwide, and in Oman it's becoming better because of the government support. But from the investment side, I didn't see a lot of us attracting a lot of investors in early stage companies. I am very pro SMEs and startups, and I would like to see, with the government support, I would like to see international investors coming or not coming. We are going to them and presenting our startups. The second observation that I noticed globally, like my colleague have said, has to do with oil also. And I've noticed that now the oil and gas industry within the next 8 years will not be an oil and gas industry anymore. It will become the carbon management industry because of this global trend that, towards decarbonization, towards climate technologies. I think within the next 8 years, the value of something, if you invest in it, it depends on the future, right? And with this global pivot towards decarbonization, I see the future will become how do you manage your energy security, how do you manage the renewable energy, and how do you manage removing the carbon from the atmosphere that we have been emitting over the past century. So the oil and gas industry within the next 8 years will be renamed and it will become the carbon management industry. And I've noticed this in Portugal, I've noticed this in Egypt, in Sharm el-Sheikh, and I've noticed this in the US. If you notice in the US, they have now the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act. So yes, it's an act, it's a law that has to do with inflation reduction, but it's $2 trillion investment from the US government, which is the biggest economy of the world, in exactly this, that includes this pivot towards carbon management and away from oil and gas industry. So what does this mean for us? This means for us, who is going to manage who is going to build this infrastructure for the big data of carbon management? Who is going to bring the next solution for the renewable energy data management? I think, like what you said, if you have $1 invested in AI, I would say if you have $1 invested in AI, in the carbon management industry. There is one thing that I did not see globally, and I wonder why. I'm a teacher at heart. My background is teaching, and I was a member of the Education Council. And when you commit to for example, preparing future generations for AI or for big data, it excites me, but at the same time, it worries me. Is what field are we really going to focus in and invest in? If you notice, something happened with some companies like Meta or Facebook or whatever they're calling themselves these days, and it also happened in Twitter. Thousands of people were laid off, but the companies did not stop working. How come the companies did not stop working even though they laid off a lot of people with our background, with data-related jobs? This means that the market is moving much quicker than we think it is. And what worries me is that I did not see a lot of talk about singularity. Singularity, you know better than me, it's the concept that machines at some point will become smarter than human beings. And because of our cognitive abilities, we will move our cognitive abilities to machines using data, and they will be able to perform our tasks and our jobs. This is singularity. And I think singularity is happening very slowly. Some people thought that it will happen to 2040. I think it is already starting to happen now, and this is the reason behind these layoffs in the global tech industry. So what I didn't see is that how are we going to prepare the generations of the future to know that their jobs, let's say, for example, you train data analysts, or you train data cleansers, or you train data visualizers on Power BI. What if in the future this can be automated, and then we train them in 5 years and they're not here? So this is one trend that I think is not being studied enough, and I don't know the answer. We can prepare people as data analysts, but this is going to be a no-code future. So there is still work that needs to be done in the academic world to find out the answer, that we do not need to invest in educating people who will not have jobs in 20 years or 30 years. We need to prepare generations that will have jobs for 100 years, and then later on it will be trained to something else. So this is something that I think the whole world, there is an issue. I hope these 3 points are clear. So I saw early stage investments. I saw improving government support for early stage companies. I saw the biggest economy is going to become the carbon management economy. But what I did not see that we are paying a lot of attention whether we are going to have jobs in the future or not. And what is the education field are doing about this? Because we need some thought leadership. The thought leadership in the data science will not come from Europe or the US. Especially now with the geopolitical crisis happening in Europe, it is distracting the academic world in the US and Europe from answering these kinds of questions. We need to study what is it that we need to advise the market that they need to invest in. if that makes sense. Sorry for the long answer.
No, thank you, Khalid. And I like that you talked about the investment in the early stage and the government support. And it was good to see organizations like IKED, who were taking Omani startups to Dubai, GITEX, looking at LEAP in Saudi Arabia. These kind of examples, and also to try to get international investment, not just investment from Oman, but institutional investors, angel investors. So hopefully the investment can come. But it's good to hear that you said that they were ready and they were prepared, which is really good to hear. And about skills that we have to learn, unlearn, and relearn, which is very important to make sure that we don't lose our jobs every 5 years. So thank you, Khalid. I'll now move on to Ingrid. And this question is about the Global Forum, which recently came up with a report outlining the policy recommendations in regards to ethics and AI. What are the key takeaways for Oman in relation to this?
Thank you very much. And I also would like to echo what Khalid said here about the carbon, the opportunities in the carbon, because I think we were both in Egypt and we saw it. We saw it in the Omani pavilion, Minister of Energy playing a key role in environmental issues, which was not used to be happening before, and now we see it, and it's a global trend. So definitely this will be a lot of transition in the traditional oil and gas industry. Now we don't call it oil and gas, of course, we call it energy, and it will soon be connected with carbon, if it's not already is, but for most companies in that sector, the carbon issue is on their agenda, and they will be leading a transition in that field. And I think also what we have seen, that the energy sector in Oman has been the driver of of digital transition within there. There is no operational excellence without a digital transition, and there is a lot of things to be happening in that sector. So that brings us to the most important sector in Oman. Coming back to the document that was produced as parts of the Global Forum, which we also presented to the Minister of Transport and Information Technology in Oman. It's called AI and Ethics, and it brings us back to what Khalid said about singularity. What are the kind of ethical aspects when we're looking into artificial intelligence and other disruptive technologies? Do we need to consider it? What do we need to do about it? How can we manage this in a disruptive world? It leads us to cybersecurity. It leads us that the need for new policies, but also new regulatory frameworks that everybody has to embrace. And of course, from top down, you do the regulation, you look at the legalities of artificial intelligence and machine learning, what can be accepted, what cannot, and how much data do we really need? Do we need all that data? These are questions that we have to address. But it's not only from the top down, it also has to go from the bottom up. So we have to bring awareness to people. It's sort of everybody who is working in this field should say that it's very, very important that we bring awareness to people, to individuals, about the risks with artificial intelligence. And there is, the freedom of speech, we see it in some countries, of course, around the globe. We see it also with companies. It's not only on the individual level that AI and ethics play a role. It's also on the organizational level and, of course, on the national level. How do we protect our nations? How do we protect our citizens from intrusion in different ways? So in Europe, as you know, I'm Swedish, but in Europe we discussed this for a very, very long time, and it was in 2018 that the European Commission came up with the regulatory framework called GDPR, General Data Protection Law, that was put in place in order to protect institutions and individuals from intrusion. It's there. I would say it's more like a recommendation than a real law enforcement. It's very difficult to enforce regulatory frameworks when it comes to data intrusion. But also on the company level and on the national level, we have to work with this. We have to see what can be done. I would like to give an example from France, for example, where the big whale company, they decided a year ago to reduce the amount of data that they collect. I mean, they collect data in all stations. They know exactly who is traveling. And they know exactly whose bag is lost and everything. And this is, I mean, I like to be able to find my bag when I have lost it. I like to be able to find my phone when I have lost it in a train station. But maybe I don't like to have facial recognition everywhere. So what SNCF, which is the national railway company, did in France is that they decided, okay, let's put a policy within our company that we do not do facial recognition. We work with other data sets that will look at, we support the people. What do people need? What is the demand? What do they need when they are in a train station? Yeah, and so they had a big survey, and actually they reduced the data sets and came up with a different kind of policy how they treat data within their company. And I think this is something what we could work with, but it's also us on people that we have to, if we are not aware, how can we know? We are not aware when we are being traced or tracked, or when there is intrusion on our private sphere, or in our company sphere, or on the national level. So we are not aware, but we have to start bringing that awareness, and that is about learning more, educating more, but also bringing this discussion out in the miles, in our living rooms. This is what we should discuss, and we should talk about this to our kids and discuss with them. What do you accept? What do you think is a reasonable way of tracing your data, your photos, your private life? What is a reasonable? And also on the institution and national level. Thank you.
Thank you, Ingrid. Very important to look at the experience that Europe has had when it comes to AI and ethics, and really, really useful information. Thank you. We have time for one more question for both Saud and Mohammed, because I think we have the awards ceremony coming up. So, Saud, question for you, again relating to the game-changing data infrastructure and platforms. From your experience, what advice do you have for other organizations to adapt these types of platforms?
So from other organizations on how they can adapt to game-changing platforms, I would start by, I think most of you know Mike Tyson, and he has a very interesting saying. He says, we train for months and months, and we have a plan until we get punched in the face. And there is where the plan flies off. Data infrastructure stems from your data architect. Your data architect is the plan that is going to be crucial to how you choose to invest on your data infrastructure. What we tend to possibly challenge ourselves in many of our organizations is we build our data architect based on a roadmap, 5 years, 10 years, and then we block ourselves and say we have to achieve this. What it undermines is our ability to adapt. I think a plan nowadays should be very concrete, but should be adaptable. And if you are going to adapt in an organization to invest on your data infrastructure, you need to follow some design principles that make sense for you. Some of the design principles we follow is the first one, which is, I like to call it don't buy your Ferrari, rent it. And it's more or less the cloud movement approach. So whenever you can actually move to the cloud, it's actually advised to do so, because you end up getting the latest and the best depending on your cloud provider. And you don't look back and say, oh, this was my 20-year-old data architect. It's an antique. Yeah, it's like a car, Ferrari. 20 years Ferrari, you put it in very well condition. You can actually sell it for value. But organizations, they tend to hide their data architectures, which are very old. They're like, no, this is not what we used to use. So there's no value in legacy when it comes to your data infrastructure. The second design principle, I would say, is we have been trying to almost conquer the silo challenges in our organization without understanding that it's not a problem that we have to solve completely. So I think you have to encourage your capability for integration as part of your design principle rather than stop it. You're not going to create a new silo, or you are not going to create a new silo, because the minute you have integration abilities, silos are not considered silos. And you can actually see in countries, you don't have a country with one town. No, you have countries with multiple towns. And every one of us, and if it was a data attribute, are free to travel from one town to another with multiple choices of our pathways. That ability in Oman is very crucial to us, and it has to be very crucial to your data infrastructure. The third is, if your organization is structured in a functional movement on supporting functions, HR, administration, and all, you still have to invest on real-time processing. Batch processing is going to give you value, but real-time processing is what's going to give you the competitive advantage. So if you are an HR consultancy and you say, oh, it's okay, we can always look at our data monthly, not every organization does so. You have to be able to look at it within minutes or a few hours delay. That's all.
Thank you very much for that, Saud. And the final question now for this panel is for Mohamed, and is to do with the customer's journey towards data-driven decision-making and business strategy. Why is it important, and how does IBM help government and businesses to achieve this?
Sure. Thank you. So data-driven decision-making is probably in the, at least 80% of our customers want to reach there. They want to be a data-driven decision-making organization. The aim is that they want to create a competitive advantage. You just heard it right now. You want to outperform competition. You want to generate profit. We know that organizations that are data-driven, that support data-driven decision-making are likely to make 178% more profit than the others. You want to take decision based on a large amount of data that most of humans cannot comprehend in a reasonable amount of time. Crunching large amount of data, we call that data wrangling. It's the machine that is taking this decision. However, when we try to transform any organization to be a data-driven decision-making organization, there are lots of inhibitors. 62% of the data that the customers have today are not analyzed. Ingrid mentioned about the data quality. 80% of the data that customers have today suffer from quality issue. It's not about the quantity, like SNCF example. It's about the quality of the data you are getting. 80% of the time of our customers is spent in cleaning data and preparing data. This is a huge amount of time of investment. 82% of the data is siloed. It has been discussed by my panel colleagues in here that 82% of the data is siloed. So these are inhibitors to advance the data-driven decision-making organization. However, there are solutions. There are solutions. In AI, we have a prescriptive approach that we in IBM adopt a lot. We call it the AI ladder. The AI ladder is about managing data and AI end-to-end. The AI ladder has 4 steps. It starts from collecting data, organizing data, analyzing data, and infusing data. You have to go over the full AI ladder. There is no shortcut to AI. If you think there's a shortcut, I can make bits and pieces, a piecemeal approach, you will not succeed. You have to address the full AI ladder to come up with a proper end-to-end data and AI practice. You also need to consider technologies like data fabric. Data fabric today is the reference architecture to have a proper data and AI architecture. Data fabric allows you to run the AI model where the data resides. It allows you to collect data. It allows you to connect to data. It allows you also to virtualize. You need to maintain to have the three capabilities. Don't buy an AI platform that would give you one capability only, collect or connect or virtualize. Get a data fabric reference architecture to be able to collect, connect, and virtualize. You also need to consider also the AI governance, how to monitor AI end-to-end, which is extremely important. You mentioned the example of Ferrari. I would mention the example of Tesla. If the regulatory authorities come and ask Tesla, what is the AI governance you are putting in place today to make sure that the Tesla car, which is a big AI project, does not kill humans? Tesla cannot go and make a research project backward to try to defend what they put in place. They need to be able to provide to regulatory authority a PDF file saying, this is the source of my data, this is how I ran AI, this is the algorithm I used, and this is the outcome. They need to produce it quickly. A similar example in banking industry. If the central bank go and question one of the banks in Oman and tell him, we have lots of complaints about gender bias, we have female residents in Oman coming and complaining that credit card request, their loan request, is declined. This is gender bias. This is an accusation of gender bias. The bank needs to be able to produce immediately a PDF file saying, this is the data I used, this is the algorithm I used, this is how I run my AI, and this is the outcome. They need to provide that immediately. This is called AI governance. So a prescriptive approach is follow the AI ladder without a shortcut, put AI governance in place, and then you will transform into a data-driven decision organization. There are lots of platforms, lots of technologies support that. It's an evolving thing. And I think you in Oman are very much equipped to start your journey to AI without shortcuts, following the full AI ladder. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mohammed. Thank you for the panel here today, for Engineer Maqboul, Khalid, Ingrid, Saud, and Mohammed. Please, everyone, give them a round of applause. Thank you, everyone.